Hi guys, I'm Kinsey Gold. Welcome back to Crash Course AP Lang, and this is for all the books you definitely read.
So today we're going to be analyzing the poem To a Waterfowl by William Cullen Bryant, a celebrated poet from Massachusetts who followed the transcendentalist teachings of Emerson and Thoreau. So let's get this thing rolling with a quick overview of the poem.
Whither midst falling dew, while glowing heavens with the last steps of day, far through the rosy depths dost thou pursue thy solitary way. Vainly the fowler's eye might mark thy distant flight to do thee wrong, as darkly seen against the crimson sky thy figure floats along. Seekest thou plashy brink of weedy lake, or marge or river wide, or where the rocking billows rise and sink on the chaffed ocean side? There is a power whose care teaches thy way along thy pathless coast, the desert and illimitable air, lone wandering, but not lost. All day thy wings have fanned, at that far height, the cold thin atmosphere, yet stoop not weary to the welcome land, though the dark night is near. And soon that toil shall end, soon shalt thou find a summer home and rest, and scream among thy fellows reeds shall bend, soon over thy sheltered nest. Thou art gone, the abyss of heaven hath swallowed up thy form, yet on my heart deeply hath sunk the lesson thou hast given, and shall not soon depart. He who from zone to zone guides through the boundless sky thy certain flight, and the long way that I must trace alone will lead my steps aright.
So I don't know about y'all, but this year I've been getting all kinds of physics brained, and the next part of this poem that we're looking at has to do with power. I've been thinking of it in terms of science. But what Bryant has done here is personified power as some divine being or deity that is able to direct nature's path and follows creation and make sure that it's being taken care of. So when the personification of this makes it more familiar and makes it a lot more comfortable for the narrator, because once again the whole theme of it was being alone and trekking all by yourself, but using the power as a person really gives you a sense of, or gives the narrator a sense of comfort in the fact that he's no longer alone, because there is something else there, like another person, or at least another thinking being that's going to take care of him. Now that we've established the poem's meaning, let's take a closer look at some of the literary devices that Bryant used. The first one that I picked up on was the rhyme scheme, and that creates a feeling of smoothness, one might say like a bird flying through the air. So this poem has a whole lot of symbolism in it. The first one that I want to talk about is the waterfowl. So the waterfowl basically symbolizes the narrator, because the narrator's been worried so much about his own life and where he's going, and you notice that because in the last stanza he talks about how he traced this path alone, much like the waterfowl in the very first stanza where he asks where he's going in his solitary way. It all comes back to this theme of loneliness, later being overcome by the waterfowl's story where you realize that he's being guided, and it draws that parallel between the narrator and the bird that he's observing. And all in all, this poem really has a tone of reassurance where he talks about wandering alone but not lost. How does this all relate back to romanticism? So basically, romanticism,
does that mean we're gonna talk about Romeo and Juliet and all that love story stuff?
No, me from the past. Romanticism was a movement in the late 18th century which really emphasized on imagination, inspiration, and emotions, and started moving away from all that textbook sort of stuff. That is all that this poem is. Basically, the whole symbolism of the waterfowl and its natural course and journey, being man and helping him find his own answers through nature, that is a huge part of romanticism. You also have the higher power and deity, which is watching over and provides that main source of relief. Basically, the connections to nature through symbolism and the personification of this power being the guiding sources of this narrator's life are the huge connections to romanticism, and this poem entirely played off of nature and divinity. So yeah, definitely romanticism. But this has been Crash Course AP Lang.